Welcome to the Jeff Knows Inc. Entrepreneurial Podcast with your host, Jeff Lopes. Jeff has over 2 decades experience as a serial entrepreneur, building brands like Kimura from his home basement to a multi-million-dollar global brand that has sold over 250,000 pairs of boxing gloves. Jeff's here to educate, guide, and drive you on the process of bringing your ideas and dreams to reality with the inspiring stories from some of the top business minds.
Welcome to our Season 8 premiere, episode 163 of the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Super excited to have on today Rehan, Jalali, personal trainer to the stars. Great conversation. Sit back, everyone, and enjoy. This podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. With the current climate in this world, it's now more important than ever to take stock in your mental health and for once, take time to work on yourself. BetterHelp offers a personalized online counseling and therapy service that will connect you to a safe and private online environment. BetterHelp is here to assess you with your needs and match you with your own licensed therapist. It's a lot more affordable than your traditional counseling, and financial aid is always available. Right now, Jeff Knows Inc. listeners get an extra 10% off your first month just by visiting betterhelp.com/Jeff Knows. That's right. Visit betterhelp.com/Jeff Knows to get 10% off your first month. We're live on the Jeff Knows Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Lopes. Big smile across the screen here. Our guest today is Rehan Jalali. What is up, brother?
I'm doing fantastic here, Los Angeles. Sunny in the middle of winter. Can't complain.
How, you know what? I wasn't going to go there, but how's been the last 16, 18 months in LA? Because you hear all these stories with the lockdowns. We've been struggling with it in Toronto, Canada, but how's it been getting around with gyms open and stuff like that?
Yeah, it's been pretty strict. I mean, LA is one of the strictest cities probably in the world, maybe. Now it's under severe lockdown. We have masks inside everywhere, of course. And we've got a lot of caution. LA cases are there. So it's been tight in LA. It's been quite tight. We haven't, gyms were closed here as well. Now they're open. But we're getting through it, man. It's all mindset. We adapt, we adjust. We're chameleons. We keep going forward.
I love it. I mean, that's the only way to keep a positive mindset and adjust and adapt as much as you possibly can. Let's get the audience to know, even before we start up, what you're currently doing. For a little background, Rehan is the trainer for tons of celebrities. We'll get into some names after. But how did that all start? Where did your love for fitness? And I saw you were into the bodybuilding and all that in the past. Where did your love for fitness? What age and how did it all start?
Well, it started off in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago.
How old are you right now?
I'm almost 50, actually, 48. Yeah, so
I'm 44. I'm turning 45 soon. So we're
you're a young kid, young buck.
Yeah,
as we say.
Yeah, I wish. So what did it all start off?
I started off in Texas. I grew up in Texas. And I started off in sports. I played football, and here I come, 128 pounds, soaking wet with boots on, trying to be a football player. I mean, I have these South Asian genes, and I'm coming in trying to play with NFL in Texas football. I don't know if you know about high school football in Texas. It's Friday Night Lights. It's it's literally there's 3 people on my football team who made the NFL. That level of talent I'm playing against, like monsters. And I'm coming in just, hey, I'm fast. I could, getting killed every day, getting beat up. I probably had maybe 1,000 concussions probably before concussion protocols. You know what I mean? I was like, man, like the coach back then would say, hey, you got hit hard, get up and go again. There was no protocol or,
No. Things
so,
have changed.
And then, so I started playing sports. And I started learning the importance of weightlifting. That's where the weightlifting bug kind of bit me in the weight room there. And so, from sports, learning about my body, learning training, getting an inch on my arms. And I was like, wow, I could I'm like, that scene in Spider-Man where you look at where the guy looks in the mirror, he's like, he's bitten by the spider. He's like, wait, my body's like getting,
Yeah.
So that's what I felt training. And then from sports, it led me on to a career in bodybuilding. So that's how I started.
So when did you actually get into that scene of the bodybuilding world. And why I'm saying that, if you see my past, I have a very similar story. From 16, it was going from grade 15 to 16, grade 9 to grade 10. I had spurted through the summer. I got just roughly 6'2", and I was 130 pounds soaking wet. So
wow. I feel you.
I literally joined the local gym, and that's when that all started. And when I was 18, I was on stage doing bodybuilding shows. I ended up doing three competitions. When did you step on stage the first time? How old were you? I stepped
on stage. Well, there was a pause, and we had a little a side story, which was actually I initially started competing in powerlifting. So I was competing for the University of Texas in Austin as a powerlifter. And so I started powerlifting. I did really well. It was a drug-free powerlifting association. I won nationals for my weight class and age. So I started doing really well in that. And then my first show in bodybuilding was an interesting story. Is I was competing powerlifting. I was pretty ripped up. You know, I wasn't a huge powerlifter. I was in the 148-pound class and then 165 as well. So light. Yeah. And then a buddy of mine who was actually doing covers of romance novels back then. He was a really good-looking guy from New York, buff guy. He was in college, and so he was on these covers of these romance novels. He's a model. So one day, like on a Wednesday, he's like, "Hey, I'm competing in this Mr. Austin competition. You should do it. You're pretty ripped up." I'm like, "What are you talking bodybuilding? I've never heard of. You oil yourself up? What are you talking about? Like, I'm not gonna go on stage in my underwear and put what? I'm a power guy now." Yeah. So he's like, "Listen, I've already registered you. It's Saturday." I'm like, "What?" He's like, "Yeah, I already paid the fee for you. You already registered. You got to compete, and I can't get my money back." I'm like, "Oh my God!" I'm like, "Dude, okay, fine. I'll do the stupid, as a one-time thing." So he helps me pose in a couple of days and learns everything. And I happened to beat him in the show. So it was crazy. And then that's when the bug bit me. And then the following year, I won the state of Texas. I went to the USA Championships. I competed with Ronnie Coleman actually back then. He was doing nationals. Before back in the day. So that's kind of how it all started. And that's when I switched my major in college. I was an accounting major. I was going to be an accountant actually, but I was like, nah, I got to do something with the body. So I started nutrition, biochemistry, and got into all that. Yeah.
So that's an interesting story there. How long did the bodybuilding career, or I wouldn't say career, but how long did you compete for?
I competed for a good 5 to 6 years. Pretty solid. Yeah, pretty solid for about 5 years at least.
Where's your mindset with that? Because it's such a, and you might protect it because obviously you probably have a lot of friends still in that field. But it's what I found was it's a very hard industry, hard on your body, hard on your mind, for certain reasons. I mean, on your body because all the shit people are taking, and I went through. I'm very open with it, and the mind because you're never, which is the positive thing, I guess, is that whole entrepreneurial mindset. You're never happy with what your outcome is. You always want more and more and more, but it could also get very depressing too. And that's something a lot, especially nowadays, mental health is more in the upfront, but back then no one would talk about it. And a lot of these guys are never happy with themselves. They get in really deep depression, especially if they don't have family or friends around them. So where's your mindset with the whole bodybuilding world? Back then and is it now better?
I think, look, I've been in it for so long. I've been to, 22 Mr. Olympias. I mean, I'm in that world. Yeah. But at the same time, I look at it, to me, bodybuilding was the greatest thing that ever happened to me. And the reason I say that is because it catapulted everything I'm doing now. Everything I've done, now at this stage, have written books, have produced movies, have done so much in this field. It all stemmed from bodybuilding because, yes, there's a lot of negatives in bodybuilding. It's a very lonely sport, right? But that lonely sport philosophy really taught me a lot. Taught me to rely on myself, taught me to have perseverance, overcome obstacles. And the most important thing, as you know, as you've done it, is discipline, is immense discipline because diet is so critical and food is everywhere. So having that mentality, that mindset of, look, I can smash through everything. And now as an entrepreneur for 20 years plus, having that mindset and going through those challenges, going over injuries, going through pain, when everybody's partying, I'm at the gym training, So going through all those things, I took bodybuilding as a catapult to my career. I mean, I will say, if it wasn't for bodybuilding, I wouldn't even be here because I wouldn't have that mindset, that killer mentality that competition spirit. And in the 90s, bodybuilding was different than it is now. Right.
Oh, totally.
It's a different world. I mean, I mean, now it's basically a pharmaceutical game, right? It's just whose body can take the most drugs, at one time. Yeah. But back then it was a little different. Back then it was more camaraderie. There was more positive motivation. There was a lot of cool things about bodybuilding that created synergy, that created motivation for you, and it really propelled my career. The reason I got out of bodybuilding is because I didn't want to go all the way with the drugs. So just to be frank, I really wasn't into the drugs, and I was natural competing. And when I saw, next to me, these guys like 165 pounds with 19-inch arms shredded, I'm like, this might not. And I have a very, probably like you, a personality that if I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it all the way. I don't have a yellow light. Yeah, I only have one speed like Charlie Sheen. Go. You know what I mean? I can't be a little pregnant. It's got to be all the way. So I think that's something. Yeah, exactly. I got that tiger blood in me.
Wild thing. Wild thing.
And so, but that's what it is. So I knew that if I got into the drugs, I would have tried to become a pro. I would have taken everything for sure. I would have gone all the way. No doubt about it. But that's what's cool about bodybuilding. That's what that bodybuilding mentality taught me. It taught me, listen, you can't be just good. You got to be great. You got to be great, because if you're just good, you're not going to place, you're not going to win. You're going to waste all that diet, every day training, right? So to me, it was like
you're essentially a pro. You're essentially a pro athlete, and I always say this. Pro athletes, the top tier pro athletes. You could put them next to any top tier entrepreneur and they have the same mindset, the same drive, the same hustle. The whole thing with Kobe Bryant, the thing that made him great was the thing that ended up killing him. That helicopter, he would get to the arena an hour and a half before everybody and shoot an extra 1,000 buckets, even at his peak. So it's that mindset, that drive, which I pure understand. So how did that translate into training, and when did you start getting into training celebrities and getting in that world? Because you've obviously worked with a lot of A-list celebrities. How did that all come about? And who was the first person? Who was the first celebrity that you really like? Oh shit, I'm training this person. That's pretty awesome.
Man, you're like the best interviewer ever, man. You set me up with these great questions. This make my job easier. My God. That's such a great question. I get that asked a lot through my interviews. But so I basically, when I started competing in bodybuilding, I was studying nutrition and biochemistry in college. Yeah. I got a job offer at EAS. EAS was a sports nutrition company. That's where I met Clark and others. And so I just got the opportunity of a lifetime, because EAS was very small when I started, and when I left, it was a $225 million company. So
that company exploded in the 90s.
I literally was there when there was like 10 employees. When I left, there was 240 employees. So, I was in that growth. I helped with that growth. I was a big part of the product development team, everything that Bill Phillips at that time needed. And so from there, I got to work with the Denver Broncos when they won the Super Bowl 2 years in a row. I was at training camp. I was doing all kinds of things. I got to really experience things I would have never experienced. And again, I have the mentality of burning the boat mentality as an entrepreneur, which is basically, look, I have only one option to succeed. So literally, the funny story about EAS is I sent my resume in on the fax machine. The old school fax machine is a joke. I just saw the little fax number on Muscle Media magazine that they had, and I sent my resume in college as a joke. And next thing I know, they gave me a call. They hired me. They flew me to Denver, and I'm working at EAS. So that's been kind of my philosophy. So learning all that in EAS. Becoming good at what I do. I always say perfect your craft. If you're great at something, people will always notice, right? Yeah. So I just started perfecting my craft. I started writing for all the magazines. And so my name started getting out there. And after EAS, I worked for a company called Rexall Sundown in Florida. They bought Metrex. So I was brought in to help buy Metrex. So I was part of that deal. I was there for a year developing products. And again, I had another burn the boat offer in California through a company called Body Logics. And listen, I had a little kid, 6 weeks old, wow. 6 weeks old child, freshly, my wife at the time was telling me, like, what are you, crazy? You're going to move to California? We have a great life in Florida. We're in Boca Raton. I said, no, this opportunity was too great. I was a founder of this company. I could be basically a top tier executive. Flew, literally packed all my stuff, flew to California, and never looked back. And so when I got to California, going back to your question about the celebrities, again, I started perfecting my craft, building this company, selling. We sold the company to another company, and I kind of got that experience. And then building my name up. Now at this point, now I'm in all the magazines. I'm in Muscle and Fitness. I'm in Iron Man. I was on the cover. All these things. So people started kind of noticing. So one day I'm sitting at home. This is a true story. Yeah. And the phone rings. You remember those Nextel phones, the flip phones? So I had the chirp. Yeah. So the phone starts chirping, and I'm like, oh, okay. Who's? I answer the phone. Hey, Rehan, this is Sly Stallone calling. And I was like, Stallone? You mean Rocky? He's like, yeah, it's Sly Stallone. I got your number through a guy we mutually know, and I'm starting this company, and I need, I learned about you, and you're the guy, and I need you to come on. And he's going on and on, right? And I'm just pausing, like,
this is a joke.
This is. I'm like, who is this? Adam, Brad? Who is this? Omar? Who's calling me? Like, what? And then I was like, okay, Mr. Stallone, whatever. I just hung up on him. So I hung up on Sly Stallone, right?
Are you ready to unlock your full potential? I want to introduce you to the Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, a powerful resource to transform your life today. With expert interviews, practical tips, and inspiring stories, this podcast is your roadmap to lasting wellness. Here's what a listener has to say.
I used to struggle with my health, but this podcast changed everything. It's like having a personal trainer, nutritionist, and life coach totally for free.
With over 2,000 five-star reviews, we're a podcast you can trust. The Fit, Healthy, and Happy podcast, available now wherever you get your podcasts.
And then he calls me right back. Hey, Ray, I think we got disconnected. I'm like, no, we didn't get disconnected. I hung up. He's like, oh, no, this is Sly. I'm like, then I was like, wait, this kind of sounds like him. Like, I mean, I think it's, so it was Sly Stallone. So
which company was this for?
Instone. So he's starting a supplement company called Instone Nutrition. And he needed me to come on board and help him out. And he recruited me. And, and then he's like, why don't you help me with my personal program? I'm getting ready for another Rocky and, another Rambo. And so he was literally my first client. My first client happened to be Sly Stallone, which is mind-boggling.
Crazy.
It's crazy because most people, I was just grateful and fortunate, but most people, obviously their story is, hey, you start here, you build up, and you get a few other clients, you get that one break. My first client was Sly Stallone. By the way, he was the most generous, nicest person you could ever imagine. He literally opened up Hollywood. Hollywood's like a fortress. Yeah. You can't penetrate it. He literally got the keys to the kingdom. Walked in, introduced me to Bruce Willis, to dozens of A-listers. And of course, if it's coming from Sly Stallone, it's already qualified. They already know. So that's what really kind of ignited the fire. And of course, I had to produce results, right? I always say, look, you can get in the door, and even as an entrepreneur, but you got to have a good product. Like you got to have a good, you got to have a good product to have longevity. So that's kind of how it started, how it propelled. And then, I got to, be part of Rambo, be part of Rocky. I mean, me as a kid, and I'm sure you can relate to this, Jeff, is growing up, I put Rocky on and I was running around the house, drinking raw eggs and doing push-ups and punching.
Favorite movie of all time is Rocky IV. I have an official, authentic Rocky movie poster framed in our office here. We have
amazing
Rocky memorabilia like crazy around here. And it was funny because my 13-year-old son will probably watch that movie about 25 times. So we're actually the anniversary one. We're waiting. We have it. We're going to wait till the Christmas break to watch it together as a family. But yeah, great. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's my. I mean, and imagine having that level of like respect and following and literally you're like an idol of basically you're idolizing this person. And now you're working with him. Like literally, I'm going to his house. I'm trying samples with him. I'm literally in a business with my idol. And it's crazy because I learned so much from Stallone. And I really believe you can't get to have success without teamwork, without a lot of people behind you. I really believe that. I don't think it's, you can go, I always say you can go faster alone, but you can go a lot further together. And
100%.
I think that Sly really gave me a lot of great advice, a lot of tips. For example, one thing he told me early on was it's something simple, right? But he said, you can't edit what you don't have, right? And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, listen, if you ever have a chance to take a picture, a video, if you have a chance to do something, do it. Because if you don't have it, you won't be able to edit it. Like, you know what I mean? You can always delete it, but
Content is key.
He goes, just get everything you can, because we were talking about movies, and he actually put me in Rocky, the last Rocky movie as well. So like a little background.
You were?
Yeah, I was in the background.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I mean, he's been so cool, and he gave me amazing signed memorabilia, and he gave me all the stuff, and he just was really helped me out a lot. And I think he was one of the keys to getting me really at a high level in Hollywood.
I love it. So where did it continue from there? I mean, you've worked with quite a few people who give me one or two stories of somebody you worked with that just like a really awesome story, celebrity wise.
Oh man, if I told you, I'd have to kill you. I mean, it's I've got the gag order. No, I'm kidding. It's interesting because people ask me that a lot. Like, hey, you must, and literally I've seen it all. I mean, there's stories for days and days and days. Yeah. There's been surreal nights, surreal days. Working with, because not only do I work with a lot of high level celebrities, but I also got to work with a lot of high level business people as well. At one point, 3 of the top 10 richest people in the world were my clients. Like literally that, I was working with those kind of people as well. So I got that kind of rounded experience of business and celebrity. My favorite client, I always say, is Sly, and of course, Ben Affleck. I think I've been with Ben 16 years now. So, I think that's another thing that's important to understand, is that there's a lot of people out there who can claim to be like celebrity trainers or celebrity fitness people or whatever. But I look at longevity, and I think, you look at people who, my clients generally stay around for 5 to 10 to 15 years because I just want to provide value. And I think that's been my whole goal, my whole life, is to help people be better. Like my goal was never, hey, I'm going to make a lot of money being a nutritionist. It was never like, it's not one of those fields, right? So my goal was like, listen, if I can provide massive value to people, if I can provide more than I get, if I can give more than I get, then I can be successful. So even with celebrities and whoever, I try to provide them with massive value, information they can't get anywhere else in the world, really. And again, it's perfecting your craft. And so working with Ben, transforming his body and helping him over the years allowed me to work on Batman. So now I'm working on iconic franchises, right? So it's something when you're growing up as a kid. I'm a comic book kid, I love the superheroes. So not only Sly, but then I got to work with Hugh Jackman for Wolverine, for example, right? Then with Ben for so long, he calls me up and he says, hey, I got a new gig. So I said, oh, awesome. Must be, because we did The Town together. We did Argo. We did a bunch of movies. And I'm like, oh, cool. Must be another cool story that he's writing or something. Yeah. He's like, yeah, this one's a little different. I'm going to have to deliver big on this one. I said, oh, okay. Maybe it's a boxing movie or something, or I don't know, some physical. Oh, okay. So he goes, don't tell anybody. I said, okay, of course. But I'm going to be the Dark Knight. I said, Dark Knight? What? I'm like, wait. He's like, and he literally on the phone is like, and you know how the movie he says it? So literally on the phone, he's like, I'm Batman. Like with that voice. And I'm like, wait, you're going to be oh my God. And he's like, yeah, and I want to be the biggest, leanest Batman that ever was. No pressure, but we gotta get to work. So that was one of the highlights of working with not only one of the awesomest people ever, Ben, who has been really one of the most genuine guys. And a lot of people always tell me, oh man, these celebrities, they must be hard to work with. And I've never found that, to be honest with you, except maybe a couple cases. But mostly I found them to be really cool, really relatable. And I realized that once you have that level of success and fame, you don't have those insecurities, or you just, look, you're already a legend, right? When you're a legend, you don't need to prove yourself or be hardcore. So I found them to be very cool. So working on Batman really was one of the highlights. As you say, a great story. So one of the stories I'll tell you, I was on the set of Batman versus Superman. So Ben is in this literally 90-pound armored Batman suit. They were filming in Detroit, and Zack Snyder's there and Henry Cavill's there. Yeah. And during the breaks of the filming, Ben was so hardcore into training and fitness, he would start doing push-ups with that weighted suit on. And I'm like, Ben, no, I got to get, he was so into it. And again, that's mindset, right? When you all in on something, right? You go all in, it's all in. And he was doing that during the filming. So he's like literally one of the hardest working people I've ever met in my life. So this is something, imagine having a guy doing push-ups in a 90-pound Batman suit. So I'm like, is Batman doing push-ups? What? Surreal life.
I love it. Give me a better understanding of what you actually do. So, I from 19 to 24, my background's fitness as well. I went to college for fitness. From 19 to 24, I ran a consulting fitness business. I've had a few gyms. I've been in that industry for a while. My main company now is Kimura, where for 16 years, we manufacture and sell boxing and martial art equipment. So, give me an understanding, because I have I guess maybe a little better knowledge than most people with the whole fitness and the body. Give me an understanding of how you break down, because you're obviously individualizing each program so specifically to them. Is it through blood work? Is it through how do you start breaking down when you're going to start working with somebody? What's the first steps?
That's a great question. I think what makes me unique and something that's really helped people really get the best results possible. And at the end of the day, it's all about results, as you know, Jeff. Yeah. So, I think what we do better than anybody else is have the most customized approach to fitness. Now, what does that mean? That means blood work that's regular, but not just generic blood work. See, even each of those customizable things are also very specific. So, for example, people will say, "Oh, blood work, okay," but there's a couple of things about blood work. One is testing the right parameters, testing the right kind of markers, right? You need to understand those markers. And then number two is, how do you read the blood, right? Most people can't read blood. They read it, they look at the reference range and say, oh, you're out of range. But that's not a correct way of reading blood work, because someone who's training, someone who has your background or my background, or someone who maybe has a lot of other issues, that blood work, you have to get a different reference range. So I actually teach a course on how to read blood work to doctors and for fitness people. Because if you're a fitness person and you're in the range for something, actually, you're probably very low. Because if you're training, it should be much higher, right? So this is the kind of things. So that's so number one, interpretation of results. So blood work, interpretation of results. But our blood work is so comprehensive that we look at food sensitivity, about brain health. We look at neurotransmitters. We look at gut function. We look at so many parameters that we get. I mean, again, as much information as we can get someone, we get the blueprint. Once you know the blueprint,
and a lot of it's through blood work, or what other testing?
That's the first thing, blood work. The second thing is we do genetic testing. So genetics is 50% of it is genetics, and so we do advanced genetic testing. I have a genetics company now called MyGenX, and MyGenX. What we do is we have advanced genetic testing. So again, we get information about your body, so you work with your body, not against it. You go with the wind, not against it, and so getting that DNA information gives you another leg up. Now we know how your body acts. So, for example, you, Jeff, I can send you a kit if you like. I'd be happy for you to try it. Yeah. But when you take the test, you might find out that you're all fast twitch muscle. Like you're genetically predisposed to power, speed, and strength. So you shouldn't be doing too much cardio. You should be doing explosive weight training a lot more, right? Or whether you should train in the morning or night. I mean, these are the kind of things that are really critical. And people who've implemented these things have transformed their body in as little time as a month. So we have information. And then on top of that, so we got blood, we got genetics, and then we also look at preferences. We look at your history. We look at how what created success for you in the past, what didn't create success, what foods you like. I'm not going to make you eat broccoli if you hate broccoli. I mean, it's just, there's no way around it. You know, people will follow what they like. And so we create a program now, taking all that information, digesting it, so to speak, and then turning out a program that's not only just diet training, but also customized supplements. So I have a lab where I go in, actually, as a biochemist, I can go in, I create supplements that are directly related to their blood and genetics.
So you customize them, huh?
Absolutely. That detail. So now you've got something, instead of off the shelf, you got a nutrient that is with your body only. So even above and beyond. So I do that for my high-end clients. And then on top of that, we have sleep protocols, we have recovery protocols, we have remodeling the gut protocols. And so we put all that together because, again, Jeff, as you know, short term, anybody can achieve. I could go on keto for a month and lose, 10, but we like to do it long term, short and long term, right? Yeah. For example, when Ben got ready for Batman, it took 18 months. It took a year and a half. I mean, people don't realize that. People think, and then Hugh Jackman was 3 months. So it just depends. But I think that I believe in a long-term sustainable philosophy. I don't believe in, hey, I dropped 30 and then I gained 20 back. That's not really what we're about. We're about, listen, get your goal, maintain the goal, and then what you said earlier, constant improvement every day. Just keep getting better and better. We're never satisfied. We just got to keep getting better.
Where's your mindset with testosterone therapy as guys get older and testosterone starts dropping, which is something that's so prevalent right now? I mean, it's something that it's so used, and it's now even a lot of more doctors are prescribing, and it was a very gray zone at one point, but now it's turning into more of a positive thing because the mental health, the mental stuff, especially I've interviewed a handful of high level like Marines and Navy SEALs that have come back and the stress and the anxiety and everything they've been through, the traumatic, their testosterone levels are so low. And then all of a sudden they're back on TRT and all of a sudden their lives have changed mentally, physically. What's your mindset with that? Because it's something that I've been dipping into interest wise quite a bit lately.
My feeling on that is that the world would be a much weaker place without testosterone. You wouldn't see some of the biggest movie stars. You wouldn't see people without. I mean, you wouldn't have Arnold Schwarzenegger without testosterone. Frankly, there would be no Lou Ferrigno. There'd be, that's just a fact. There's nothing. It's not taboo anymore. People know. But I think that I believe, and I studied. I know it very well. I've studied it. I have a chapter in my book about it.
Yeah.
So I think here's what I will say. I said, listen, if you use it and you are smart about it and you're older and you have low testosterone levels, absolutely. It's a great way to correct testosterone levels. It's as long as you monitor your blood, you look at kidney and liver function, and if you monitor it correctly and you're not taking astronomical Olympia level dosages, what I mean? If you do it for health, for performance, testosterone can certainly help you. And again, there's a lot of health benefits of testosterone by far, for brain function, for efficiency, energy, all those things are testosterone related. As you know, you get older, you start getting over 40 or 45, testosterone dips like crazy. So I absolutely believe that testosterone therapy can help you. Again, you got to understand the downsides of it and just be able to accept them, which is, for example, you may not be able to get off of it, or you have to continue cycling it for a while. And when you get off of it, you may see lower energy or suppression of your natural production. So as long as you understand all the kind of not risks, but some of the issues with it, then I think you can do it in a very smart way. And if you do it under doctor's supervision, I think it can be great for you. I personally don't have any issue with that at all.
And what about growth hormone? And why I'm getting to that, I was just listening to a podcast the other day, and Joe Rogan was saying that he's on, I think he said it 1 cc or whatever it is, or one dose of it a week now, and he's been on it for a long time. And you're seeing a lot of the same thing. I mean, maybe because it's more in the celebrities and athletes talking about a lot more that are not in the competitive world. Where's your mindset with that? Because that's something that's very risky as well, right?
I do think growth hormones are a little different. I mean, I think a combination is always best. Yeah. And also there's a lot of peptides now that are a little safer. Yeah. And those are being prescribed as well. Things like ipamorelin, hexarelin, and all these kind of things are out there now, and the doctors are prescribing it, and that seems to be a little safer for releasing growth hormone because they're growth hormone releasing peptides. So I think that if you take straight GH, look, it can increase. The problem with growth hormone is everything grows.
Yeah.
Right? Your gut lining. That's why you see a lot of bodybuilders with extended guts. Yeah. Everything grows. Your heart grows also. It's a muscle, right?
Yeah. So you heard a lot of deaths in the 90s and early 2000s of pro bodybuilders because of that, the heart.
In the last year, there's been dozens of deaths in pro bodybuilders. We know. It's just in the last year. Yeah. So there's a lot of things going on with the drugs. The other thing with growth hormone that could be risky is also if you have cancerous cells, it can actually grow the cancer. So there are some issues related to that. Now, look, is it clear? Maybe not. But again, there is a much higher, me personally, I think there's a higher risk of growth hormone. And for sure, when you take growth hormone, you truly suppress your natural production. Like you have to stay on it forever. Yeah. Like you can't get off of it then. You got to stay on for basically the rest of your life, pretty much. I mean, so I think testosterone is a little better, and using testosterone with peptides, I think is a better combination.
Where do you look at when you are doing all these genetic testing and DNA testing and stuff like that? Are there signs for like the cancerous cell stuff that you could see and start the prevention earlier, or start to suppress as much as you can? Is that something you guys look at as well?
Yes, absolutely. We look at diabetes risk. We look at cancer risk, and look, if you're and also heart issues. We look at cardiac risk. So it's just information, right? So, for example, if there's a gene that can predispose you to cancer 2 or 3 times more than others. If you have that SMP, we call a single nucleotide polymorphism, which is kind of a malfunction in your genes. So if you have that malfunction, so to speak, then you're 2 to 3 times more likely to get cancer. So, but if you live a very healthy lifestyle, if you never smoke, you don't drink excessively, you don't have a lot of risk factors, then you'll be fine. But again, if you don't do those things and you do increase some of those risk factors, you can be exponentially more risk for cancer. So I think that's important to get the information, to understand that information.
So why isn't something like this regularly tested in from a very young age, that we could put the protocols in place to start the prevention earlier? Like, I don't understand. And it goes back to the whole COVID, and we could talk about this all day long about they're telling everybody to stay indoors. They're telling everybody to lock up. And reality is, I mean, diabetes, anybody that has health issues, anybody that's overweight, anybody that's low in vitamin D, they're the ones that they're getting the worst end of this. So it's obviously showing health is so important, but they're not promoting or pushing it. So where's the mindset? Like, why are these not something that are regularly tested? Like, is this just the big pharma companies suppressing this?
Man, we could have a whole nother show on this topic specifically.
Yeah.
We could go on and on. And I look, I'm vocal about this. I don't hide it.
Yeah. I'm very vocal about it too.
Yeah. I talk about it all the time. I said, listen, COVID is inherently, and this might sound controversial, inherently it's not problematic. For a normal population, COVID is not. It's like
it's
a little more than the flu.
It's a flu. Right. It's the flu.
Exactly. Exactly. And so what COVID did, though, it exposed the inflammatory bodies that we have. That's what it did. So if our population was healthy, COVID would be nothing like, it'd be a cold. It'd be a flu. It'd be nothing. We didn't even think about it. But because our population is obese, 70% obesity or overweight and obesity now, we've got over 42% of the population in the U.S. is obese. We have 300,000 deaths a year related directly to obesity regularly, way more than COVID over time. Yeah. And people aren't even talking about it. And they're worried about this disorder that really literally exposed because COVID is an inflammatory disease, right? It really causes a cytokine storm, but all those things are related to inflammation, which is from obesity, which literally is directly related to having abdominal fat, having there's toxic fat in your body that releases cytokines that makes you inflamed. So when you get COVID, you can't fight it because your body's already inflamed. All COVID did was expose the inflammatory nature of our bodies.
I love that. No one's ever explained it to me that way. And it makes, like, I've understood it, but it's a great explanation of it. I love that.
Yeah, COVID just exposed us. And so my thing has been, and this is what I've always criticized the government, whoever's behind it, Illuminati or whatever. My thing's always been is, listen, look, of course we got to be safe. We got to do all that. But guess what? We got to promote health. This is the time right now. If you literally drop 20 pounds, COVID wouldn't even affect you. Yeah. Like that at that level. And we know that most of the severe cases of COVID have all been in people who are obese or have pre-existing conditions. Yeah. That's what the severe cases are. There's nobody generally who's healthy who's had severe effects. No. It just doesn't happen. No. So I think that we just have to be better educated. And I think we just got to, like you're doing with your great podcast, all the work you're doing is putting the message out, like, guys, get healthier, get fitter, because then you won't have a problem. But to say that this COVID COVID is the greatest, most harmful thing ever at a 99.79% survivability rate.
Yeah.
And again, I don't want to get into that too much, but I think that taking care of your health should be paramount. I think that's the number one thing. And we know vitamin D3, for example, zinc. Why aren't people talking about vitamin D3 deficiency being harmful in COVID?
Yeah.
You take vitamin D3, and if you have high vitamin D3 status, generally you're not going to have a problem with COVID.
No,
it's just deficiency
no.
causes.
I've been taking 4,000 IUs for how many years now? It's just my kids, my 13, my 15, my whole family. This every morning.
Absolutely.
Vitamin D, they're megas, they're vitamin Ds, and they're probiotics from a ton, very young age. And now vitamin C too. But suddenly from very young age, just that's every morning, just routine. They know they have to take their vitamins.
Yeah, and zinc. I mean, zinc is a big one. Zinc actually has been shown to really help with COVID. Totally. And zinc is one of the most important nutrients. And if you get to the right form of zinc citrate or zinc chelated zinc, but if you take that, I mean, to me, if you take zinc, vitamin D3, vitamin C, turmeric, and probiotics, you will never have a problem. I mean, you like I haven't been sick in years. I don't have that issue. Thank God. It's because you take care of your health. That's all.
Turmeric's a good one.
Yes, but the thing about turmeric is most turmeric is only one. Turmeric is a very low bioavailability. So you can only, for example, if you just took turmeric powder, you'll absorb maybe 1% or 2% of it. So
that's why people say to put it with the black pepper and.
Well, it's even more than that. I mean, there's only two forms of turmeric I found to be absorbed, and one is called C3, and the other one's called curcumin. So those are the two patented versions, the research-based versions that are very high absorbability, and that makes all the difference in the world. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, we haven't done it actually for about a month, but we were doing pretty steadily just turmeric ginger shots. The juicer just
great,
some black pepper, shoot it down, let it burn there for a sec, and you're good to go. opens up your sinuses pretty quickly, and you're good to go.
Kill those harmful cells. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Even in the past, you start feeling a little under the weather years ago. You just take a shot of ginger. You get ginger. You get the garlic squeezer. You squeeze in like 5-10 drops. You just chuck it down, and you're good to go that night, man. You're good.
Hey,
to go.
Garlic is great for colds and for vampires. So we keep.
I love it.
2 and 1.
How many children do you have?
3. The 3 out there that I know about. We don't. No, I'm just kidding. No, I'm a 22-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 15-year-old. Yeah.
So they're 22, 20. What is fatherhood?
They're old.
What is fatherhood?
They're old.
They're old.
Yeah, my son was a champion powerlifter as well. So he did very well. He set the state record right now for squats and in California. So yeah, he's doing well.
What does fatherhood mean to you?
That's a deep question. Well, being a father, I think being a father in this day and age is different than being a father 20 years ago, honestly. And I think being a father in this day and age, I think requires some tough decisions. I think it requires, I know everybody talks about toxic masculinity. I think masculinity is positive in a lot of ways. I think kids need to see a strong leader, someone who says what they, who does what they say, who's there for them, who gives them encouragement, who, for me, being a father means elevating your children, giving them the tools they need to be very, very successful, but not just successful in the way people look at it financially. I'm talking about being good humans, having that mind, body, soul, as I always say, and then giving them, putting them in a position to win. And what I mean by that is giving them empathy, having them understand empathy, giving them knowledge, giving them a way of looking at the world correctly, and giving them strength inside. Because in this world with social media, and again, it's funny because when we were growing up, Jeff, we're about the same age. Yeah. I didn't have social media. I didn't have, if people bullied you, they'd be like, yeah, whatever. It wasn't a big deal. It was like, okay, I'm gonna fight every day, whatever. It was no big deal. But in this day and age, you have so much mental health issues with these kids getting bombarded. Their whole life is documented, getting bombarded with all this online things. Their actually brains get rewired. So I always say, raise children in the time you're living in, not the time you grew up in, right? So we got to understand the time we're in, and then using those tools for positive, for good, right? So like I tell my kids, hey, be on social media. Some parents say, hey, don't be on social media. I tell my kids, look, be on social media, but do it for good. Raise money, do charity work. Like I get them to raise money and do these little things. I said, look, do good, use it for good. Give people knowledge, motivation, inspiration. Look, if you want to find negativity, it's everywhere.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
easy
100%.
to find. I mean, it's everywhere. You just open your phone, you find that. That's not novel, right?
No.
But to do something to uplift, it's always much harder to build than destroy. Easy to destroy, easy to break down, hard to build. So I said, look, build something. Whether it's your character, whether it's a business, whether it's your whatever goals you have, build it. And I think that's the lesson I give to my kids is be great and be strong inside and be a good person. That's kind of what it is. I mean, is that what you found as well, being a father?
Yeah, it's just you're trying to be they're almost their anchor, their support. Right?
That's the word right there, anchor. Great word.
You teach them as much as you feel like they need to learn, but you want them to learn on their own as much as possible. I'm a strong believer that my kids, my daughter's 15, my son's 13, and there's a story behind my son that Clark knows quite well, and that you would love fitness-wise. One day we'll talk about it. I mean, he was diagnosed with CP as a baby. Wow. And we went from possible wheelchair to AFO braces to by his 12th birthday out of braces, running his first marathon. I did it all through fitness.
Wow.
I did it all through fitness. And
amazing.
I've documented it all. And
I love it.
And but my kids, 13 and 15, they cook, they clean, they're so responsible. We get home and my 15-year-old daughter has dinner ready, and we've taught them to be independent from a very young age. From very young age, they both had their own phone. Very young age, they only had their own key. They're coming back and forth, walking to school. Like, we've taught them independence in the right way. And I think that's so crucial. And I introduced fitness because my son needed it, but both my children from a very young age to the point where we get home. My kids don't play video games. We get home and my kids are fighting over who can use the treadmill. And
I love it. Me too. Yeah.
Fitness fanatics. So having that is so precious, right? So you just teach them and you let them learn on their own too, which is good, right? You let them learn on their own as much as possible. I have one more question for you. If something were to happen today, in a few words, how would you want it to be remembered, described by your loved ones?
That's a heavy, deep question. My God, we're going deep. I thought this was a real interview. That's a great question. I think about that a lot. At this stage of my life, I've done a lot of things. I'm grateful for everything I've done, and I do think about legacy. I think about what have I left the world. And a great quote that I like that says that the best of people are the ones that benefit others the most. And I want to be remembered as someone who benefited others the most, who gave the world knowledge, who gave the world positivity, who helped change lives for the better. I want to be remembered as someone who gave a lot more than he took, someone who, again, made people better and put a smile on their face. And when people met them, when people would meet me, I want to be remembered as someone that brought joy to them and that they look forward to have met. So I want to put that out there and be remembered for someone who gave positivity, knowledge, and who helped people be better.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Give the audience a little understanding of everything you're doing right now, business-wise. How can they get a hold of you, social media, what companies you're running, all that stuff like that?
Sure. Well, I have a company now called MyGenX, and mygenxdna.com is the website. At MyGenXDNA. This is an advanced genetic testing company, a genetic solutions company. We have genetics testing that's easy to understand with the results because a lot of these genetics companies, it's very confusing when you get all that data, but we've made it very easy to get easy to read and usable information with pro tips. So you can use that information and implement these tips to make your body and health better. We've got supplements that are genetically matched as well to your results. So it's a comprehensive genetic solutions company, and it's part of a bigger organization called iVitalize, and we're doing it again. Our motto is saving and transforming lives every day. So that's kind of our motto. So we have that company. I've got several books out there. The 6-pack diet plans available everywhere. I've got new books coming. The superhero diet plans coming out. I've got a women's book coming out.
Superhero diet plan. I love that.
Yeah, I've got 2 movies.
Look behind me. I got Superman behind me.
Hey, yeah, I see it. I love it. I've got 2 movies out right now that I've helped produce, and I'm also in on Amazon Prime Video and Apple TV. One is called Subs. Yeah, one's called Subs the movie, and one is called Access Muscle. So those movies are out right now. You guys can enjoy them on Prime Video or on Apple TV as well.
Are they more documentaries or actually films?
Documentaries. They're documentaries. And then I've got a film coming out next year on Prime Video about my life story, actually. It's like a docudrama about kind of my challenges, my struggles, overcoming, and working with some of the most famous people on earth, and doing that as a kid who's coming out of Houston, Texas. You know what I mean? So it's a pretty good story. I think it's a story that I think will inspire people and let people know, as we always talk about, and as you know, Jeff, you can overcome anything. Everything is figure outable, as we say. And definitely. So that's going to be coming out next year. We're doing some great things with MyGenX and social media at Six Pack Diet Plan SIX. And, you can check us all out. And again, if I can add value to anybody listening out there, please let me know. Whatever I can do to help, I'm more than happy to do it. You could DM me, you could email me, you could, send a homing pigeon, whatever it is. If it's to help you get better, I'll do it. Let's go.
Mike Tyson's way of communication still.
Exactly.
I love it. This has been awesome, brother. And yeah, man, when your other document is coming out beforehand, we'll get you on here again and promote it. Anything you need from me on my side, promote. And anytime you're in Toronto, Canada again, shoot a message and we'll go for dinner and hang out for a bit and show you around.
I love the keg, I love the steakhouse.
I'm in there for a bit. Yeah, the steakhouse.
That's my spot.
There you
go. No, but I got the last thing I'll say, Jeff, is I looked at a lot of the stuff you're doing, and brother, keep up the great work. I love people like you because you're really having a big impact, getting these great guests on your show, with your clothing company, with your activewear. I think, like I said, raising kids, which is your most important job. So I look up to you as someone who's doing great things in the field. So I really appreciate you having me on the show today.
Appreciate it, man. This has been a great connection. I'm sure this is going to be more of a long-term friendship than anything. So I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.
That's a wrap for today. I want to thank our guest, Rehan, for taking time out of his incredibly busy schedule. Great conversation, great stories. If you guys enjoy this podcast as much as I have, like all weeks, tell your friends, tell your family, help spread the word. We're trying to build something special here. Leave a review. Myself, my team love spending time reading the reviews. Until next week, guys, keep moving forward. This podcast is brought to you by BetterHelp. With the current climate in this world, it's now more important than ever to take stock in your mental health and for once, take time to work on yourself. BetterHelp offers a personalized online counseling and therapy service that will connect you to a safe and private online environment. BetterHelp is here to assess you with your needs and match you with your own licensed therapist. It's a lot more affordable than your traditional counseling, and financial aid is always available. Right now, Jeff Knows Inc. listeners get an extra 10% off your first month just by visiting betterhelp.com/Jeff Knows. That's right. Visit BETTERHELP.com/Jeff Knows to get 10% off your first month.